So in Slumdog, I'd be like, "Hey, madam, good morning. Hello, happy birthday," and then you turn it down to make it real. And that's the same what you do with the American accent. "Hey, how are you?" You know, and it's way too far in.
What's up, everyone? I'm Andrea, your real life English fluency coach. Now, in a recent lesson, we analysed Bollywood star Deepika Padukone's accent. And in that lesson, we saw how she's become an exceptional English speaker while still keeping her accent.
Suddenly, in the middle of the night, we're doing this 45-minute photo shoot, professional with lights and this and that. And I was like, what is going on? Because I didn't know if I got the part. I still don't know if I got the part.
In this lesson, we'll take a look at English actor Dev Patel, who is most famous for his roles in Slumdog Millionaire.
For 10 million rupees.
No, it isn't Sachin Tendulkar.
That's a start.
D.
And Lion.
You didn't speak Bengali?
I didn't even know it was called that. How long were you on the train? A couple of days. Couple of days.
Now, Dev is different to Deepika given that he is a native British English speaker. So there's probably not much merit in talking about his English, but what about his accent? Given that Dev has acted in a range of films and he's had a lot of diverse roles, it means that characters that he has played have had American, British, Indian, and even Australian accents.
It's weird because like I was like, all right, I'm gonna put on a bit of an American accent, and then I get to set, and then Sean Tube, the guy playing my uncle, is a bit American and a bit Persian, and then the character playing my dad, Cliff Curtis, is from New Zealand.
Actors who have had to learn a different accent for a role can definitely offer some great advice for English learners. In fact, in a way, when you're speaking another language, sometimes it does feel like you can be acting. One thing that is for sure is that you're definitely out of your comfort zone when doing so. Now, before we get into today's lesson, and in case you're new here, I want to let you know that every week we make lessons to help you learn fast English without getting lost, without missing the jokes, and without subtitles. In fact, this fan says that she is deeply in love with our channel and already feels like she's becoming an expert. So if that sounds good to you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell down below so that you don't miss any of our new lessons. So as you'll see in this lesson, Dev Patel offers 4 great insights that can really help you along in your English language journey. So let's take a look. So our first insight is that you can leave a hint of your native accent.
It's from New Zealand, and I'm just like, where do I go with this? So I neutralized it and more towards the American side, but sort of neutralized it. But I found keeping a slight little hint of British made him a bit more regal in a way.
So what does Dev Patel actually mean by this? What he's saying is that when he was putting on his American accent, he actually left a little bit of his native British accent there also. So he did this on purpose, and whilst he mostly sounded American, there was still a hint of his British accent there too. There's probably not a lot of English language learners that can completely fool someone into thinking that they are native. However, if you do tend to keep a hint of your native accent, it tends to sound a bit more exotic, which is really nice as well. So we've seen that some actors like Deepika Padukone, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sofia Vergara proudly keep their native accent while still speaking exceptional English. It's important to note that you want to be able to communicate clearly and work on your pronunciation, but you don't have to speak with a perfect American or British accent. Now, number 2 is don't be afraid to exaggerate. So what Dev is saying here is that when working on his accents, he tends to exaggerate them. Now, while this might sound silly to begin with, It can really help in perfecting your accent. And then as you work on it, you can then start to tone it down so that it sounds more natural. Let's hear what he had to say about this.
Were you practicing it on friends and family? Were you annoying them?
I was walking around, and what always happens, well, with me, when you start off with accents, is you go too far. So in Slumdog, I'd be like, "Hey, madam, good morning. Hello, happy birthday." And then you tone it down to make it real. And that's the same what you do with the American accent. "Hey, how are you?" You know, and it's way too far and caricature and high pitched and nasally. And then you bring it down and it just becomes normal.
As an English teacher, I've found that this has actually really helped me when learning Spanish. What I tend to do is I sometimes imitate my students' accent when speaking in English, and that's really helped me when perfecting my pronunciation in Spanish. I also do this sometimes with my favorite Spanish actress, Penelope Cruz, and it really helps when working on pronunciation. Although I'm sure people can tell that I'm a foreigner when I speak in Spanish, it has really helped to make my pronunciation clearer. And although people know that I'm a foreigner, they usually can't guess that I'm actually British. So at first you might feel a little bit silly when really putting on an exaggerated American or British accent, but it's really going to help you later on when you're having those conversations in English. Sometimes, just to have a bit of fun, I've even done it myself when putting on an American accent, just from growing up and watching so many TV series and movies in American, English with the accent and everything, and even singing songs. It can be really, really fun and just a fun way of learning and practicing this. Number 3 is drill again and again.
And I mean, the Aussie accent in this movie is spot on. A lot of people really screw it up. I've only heard, I think Daniel Radcliffe in The December Boys was the only other person who nailed it as well as you did. How did you sort of perfect that? Have you done one before in any other films?
No. This was a big stretch for me.
Yeah.
It's hard. You know, you start off sounding like, in my first audition, I'm sure I sounded like Crocodile Dundee or something. And then it took 8 months with this amazing coach from Sydney, Jenny Kent, and then we brought her on set to be next to the director.
Yeah.
And we would just be drilling it again and again and again. Because to think in a different voice is hard, and I don't have a knack for accents at all.
I think you do, like based on previous movies I've seen.
Wouldn't you feel flattered if someone told you that your British accent was spot on? Or what if they told you that you nailed your American accent? These are both words used to describe someone's adopted accent. Well, if you aspire to that kind of flattery, Dev makes it really clear here. You have to drill. So drilling is another way to describe practicing, only it can be more repetitive and monotonous. Another way of describing it is deliberate practice, which is something that athletes do that sets them apart from everybody else. If they want to improve on a particular area, they will drill and they will get better at it over and over and over again with that deliberate practice, which sets them apart from the rest and is something that amateurs don't do. If you have patience, drilling 10 words or 10 sentences, for example, every day is really going to get you closer to your goal.
You learned an Aussie accent for this role to play Saru Briley. How did you do that? Was it difficult? And Nicole, how did you judge it?
It was lots of repetition. She's very generous with her compliments, Nicole. But it's had some wobbly moments, but I had an amazing dialect coach. Her name's Jenny Kent, and we spent 8 months together trying to figure it out.
The fourth insight is shadowing.
Was it difficult for you to play a very typical Indian character with a heavy accent, considering you were brought up in London?
Not really. I grew up like doing a lot of impressions of people, and so I was good at mimicking people, and so Sunny is a mashup of certain people I've met along the way. One uncle of mine that always gets drunk, and my choreographer in this film, and a couple of other people he's kind of blended in. So it's really good fun just going out there, and doing it, yeah.
Now, while Dev did not use this word in his explanation, he is talking about shadowing. So in this clip, Dev is explaining about a role that he played in the film The Second Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, where he played a character with a really strong Indian accent. Let's take a look.
My hand is powdered, so the shake is firm and dry. My clothes precisely walk the tightrope between casual and relaxed formality. Yes,
let me do the talking.
Shadowing is another way of saying mimicking. So what you would do is when you're watching TV or listening to a song or watching a movie, you would actually copy or mimic what that person is saying and the way that they are saying it. When you mimic someone or you shadow a speaker, you don't only copy their words, you would also copy their intonation, their pauses and their tones. You might even have a look at the way their mouth moves when they articulate certain words. Shadowing is a form of speaking. However, because you are copying what the other person is saying, you don't even have to think about the grammar at all. So you're really focusing on your pronunciation and your articulation, which is a great way to practice this. It leaves all your mental power and focus on the phonetics of the language. One technique that I would always recommend to my students was to choose an English-speaking mother or father. So this isn't literally choosing a new parent, it's choosing someone that you want to emulate or imitate all aspects of the way that they speak. Just like a baby learning how to speak from their mother and father. What Dev explains here is that he chose one particular uncle. So the tip here is, for example, choosing one famous person that you really love, and you can watch some interviews that they do and choose a specific part, watch it over and over again, repeating or shadowing what they are saying and how they are saying it. I also highly recommend that you record yourself doing this so that you can listen back to it, see if you make any errors and also compare it to the original. That way you can practice it again and again, perfecting it. I also recommend that you really exaggerate it when you do it. That way you're using all of the tips that we have spoken about in this lesson.
Mr. Burley, while I am aware that convention dictates that I should wait for your assessment of our proposal, please take my interruption less as rudeness than proof of our profound excitement at the opportunity to meet yourself and your fine company.
Yes.
And let me say
No,
right
all
here
right, all right,
and now.
all right. No, that's enough. That's enough.
I'm sorry.
So I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and if you do try out some of these tips, make sure you have fun with it because it can be very entertaining. Also, if you haven't already, I highly recommend that you check out our lesson with Deepika Padukone next, because you will find some great tips in there as well, whether or not you want to keep or lose your accent.
If you want to enjoy what you do and you want to be successful, you have to enjoy it. So I'd say to young girls to not be afraid. I think it's important to take risks. I think it's important to make mistakes and to fail sometimes. And most importantly, I think follow your heart.
You've spoken about your own experiences of depression. Why did you want to talk about that?
Because there's so much stigma attached to it.